Hi everyone, I'm Arglefumph. Here's a death percent run for Nancy Drew, Midnight in Salem. This was not a fun game to do a death percent run for. Basically, you're playing the game... Oh, man. Yeah. So you might notice the graphics look a little weird. I did run the game in, like, the smallest resolution possible. But then I did it in full screen, so I don't know if that cancels out the slow the tiny resolution or not. So hope you enjoyed this little bit of gameplay here at the start of the game, because that's basically the first bit of gameplay we get in a long time. The rest is just clicking through conversations. So we have this conversation with Deirdre. I'm just going to click through. We're going to skip this cutscene. We're going to take 3 steps forward. Then we're going to skip another cutscene. Oh wait, we need to take more steps forward. Skip cutscene. Run forward. I really wish this had been a death scene. This would have been a great place for a death scene. Like, Nancy didn't capture the culprit in time. Death scene. And then that would have been like a death at the very start of the game. And that would have made sense. It would have been perfect. Like, you wouldn't have had to stretch the story that far at all. But no! We have to wait like a half hour before you get the first death scene. And here you just need to click a lot. That's the entire game, really. You just need to click, like, a crazy person, and then go. Click, 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 click. You move your mouse to the bottom of the screen there, and so that way when I'm clicking to skip through the conversation, I'm also clicking to select a conversation option. And we have to skip the scene. I don't know if running the game in like such low resolution actually helps with the loading screens, but you'll notice we have a bunch of loading screens, like that one where the screen just goes black and does nothing for many seconds. It's like that's because it's loading the next scene, basically. We get one whenever we use the car. Okay, so here we need to talk to Deirdre about everything. I know everybody complains, like, this game has way too much talking, but it's true! This game has way too much talking. I mean, I guess you could say, well, in the game's defense, we're sort of started with the first day of the game, and it hasn't been 5 minutes yet. You can reach the start of the game in 5 minutes. But no, I've skipped like 10 minutes of talking, though. I have. Okay, and here's the black screen where the game is clearly loading. I don't know how that affects time. When it comes to speedrunning. Here I accidentally clicked in the wrong spot. I was trying to click between the characters so I could reach that that road area so I could turn and go to the museum. The navigation in this game is also not very good. I don't think it's that bad, but if you're definitely trying to speedrun the game, then yeah, this navigation's pretty terrible. So, like here, I'm struggling. Of course, it doesn't help that that entire wall is just shining bright, like the sun is literally inside the room with me. So we get the key. I mean, we get the ticket from Tegan, and we use it on Olivia, and that's going to give us this puzzle where we have to use the tablet in like 5 different places, and that's half of the challenge of day number 1. I think it's an okay idea because we get to visit every spot in the game, we get to know everything that's important, but some of it's not important. Like this, there's no reason for us to know that that particular plaque exists. And there's no reason for us to know that this particular statue exists, really. I mean, I guess it's good for background information on Salem, but like that gets covered by the other stuff, really. Yeah, they could have cut that out. Also, the sinkholes were not important to the game, because we never interact with the sinkholes. That would have been another great place for a death scene, is you can accidentally fall into the sinkholes while trying to move your tablet there. That would have been good, and like, if this had been one of the original Nancy Drew games, there definitely would have been a death there. So, this is important. We're going to have to come back there and interact with that statue, so I'm like, okay, that's worth making sure players know about it. The Hathorn House is a big thing. Deirdre already gave like a big explanation of it, and so did Tegan. So I feel like we don't really need this extra information about the Hathorn House, but it is important. So the statue and the Hathorn House, it's like those are the only 2 places the players really need to know. Okay, so the second half of day number 1's challenge is just getting inside the judge's room. And that's it. I feel like the game would have been improved if there was some way to combine this with other stuff. Like, if they had combined the judges thing here on this day with the events of the second day, that would have been fine. That would have been fine. Because all we're doing here on day number 1 is the judge. And here I messed up with the... oh, no! I think I messed up with the paperclip twice. You have to use it on the door. So I was messing up with using the paperclip. I feel like probably the reason they put this here in the game is so we could say there is a puzzle on the first day of the game. I know people have said, well, it was a puzzle going around town and finding all of the spots where you use the tablet. I'm like, I guess that kind of counts as a puzzle, but, like, not really. It counts as more of a puzzle than on the second day of the game, where the puzzle is talk to everybody about their alibi for event number 1. And then the next puzzle is talk to everybody about their alibi for event number 2. And it's just talk to everybody, okay? Seriously, that is not a puzzle. You are not having to do anything that difficult. I'm sorry, I should not have been so angry there. That was an angry outburst. We're going to skip this cutscene, and we kind of have a puzzle of getting to May, which is okay. You know, I like the puzzle idea, but also, you know what I don't like? Having to wait so long to talk to May, because that's the mystery. Our mystery is to figure out what's going on with May. She's being framed for arson, right? So what we did just there is we solved the puzzle of making May like us, and now May is actually going to talk to us about stuff. But May is still going to lie to me about the alibi, not say where she was, which is just a dumb move on her part, and I don't like that. It's like we have a victim who's unwilling to help. You know, at some point, Nancy just needs to stand up for herself and say, fine, you know what? I'm not going to solve your mystery, May, unless you get more cooperative.
You know what? No.
May also has the big, like, reveal that she was the victim of arson on day number 2 of the game, and I feel... I made this complaint before, but why did they save that for day number 2 of the game? Because that just... In day number 1, everybody's like, oh, May's the prime suspect, she's the prime suspect. And they refuse to say why. It's not until day number 2 they say, oh, she actually set things on fire, and half of her face is scarred. Maybe that's a holdover from, like, the original version of the game, where May was not a victim of a fire, where she actually had albinism. But, I mean, that was what, like, her original description, released by Her Interactive, said. Like, they had the picture of her, and they had that description of her, and they changed it. They also changed her last name. Her last name used to be Paris, or her and Tegan, but it got changed to Perry in this version of the game. And so we kind of have... I think it ties in with the storyline, which we have on night number 2 of the game, which is that they changed their name from Paris to Perry, so nobody would know they're related to the original... Salem witch hunters. Not a fan of this first night of the game challenge either. Like, Nancy should be able to go to the Hathorn house right away at the beginning of the game, because that's the other major thing she's here for. She's trying to figure out who really did burn down the Hathorn house, but she refuses to do it until nighttime. That doesn't make any sense to me, except for the fact that, oh, well, it makes it scary. I really think that's it. And then we don't investigate there, actually. All we do is we get a little close to the scene of the arson, and then we get thrown into that long conversation with Lauren, and now we have this long conversation with Deirdre, and then the Hardy Boys are going to call because they're following up on their conversation from earlier. Oh yeah, and there was the ghost scene, which we skipped, so whatever. That's the second ghost scene I'm skipping there, and now it's the second day of the game where the Hardy Boys show up. And I do think the game gets better here. This is at least a fun challenge. It's nice to see the Hardy Boys again, and I get to do something besides just skip through conversations, because the characters just never stop talking in this game. It makes me wish that there was a cooking challenge on every single day of the game, right? Yeah, that could have been fun.
1 spoon baking powder.
Looks right to...
Would have been a lot more fun than what we got, which is just endless talking.
All right.
And it really does feel like maybe there was going to be like a second variation of the challenge where, you know, say every single day of the game, you have to make a different combination of ingredients. So like on day number 3, you're making something with 3 eggs instead of 2. For example, that I'm just making that up off the top of my head, and that would have been perfectly fine. I'm trying to remember what other Nancy Drew games there are where you have to do a challenge more than once. Oh yeah, Secret of Shadow Ranch. You have to pick vegetables every single day of the game, and you have to go collecting eggs. Yeah, you have to do that more than once, and that's fine. I mean, I hate the vegetable challenge. Most people do, but it's okay that you had to do it more than once. And so I feel like the Johnny Cakes challenge is fun enough that it would have been perfectly fine and great if you did it every day of the game. Here, this is a dumb conversation. May says, "Hey." That's her that's her conversation. Her entire contribution to this conversation. This angle is so terrible. Like, May and Deirdre are completely off screen, and it's a conversation with Deirdre and the Hardys. Deirdre's regularly contributing and saying something. May's just doing nothing, and yeah, if May had actually been, like, involved in the conversation, or, like, basically involved in the game, that would have been great. So what we did just there was we talked to her about her alibi, because the puzzle is to get an alibi for both of the events that we need alibis for, which, yeah, I mean, if we had gone, we could have done the conversation about May being caught in a fire where she gives that big reveal. But it's faster to skip that conversation. You don't have to do it. With a lot of these conversations, you just kind of have to memorize what the fastest conversation options are. This is where it gets tough. I mean, this is like the only place where it is actually tough. Like with Lauren's conversation, you want option number 1, that's faster than option number 2. Here, I think it's option number 2, number 2, and then number 3, and then number 3. As you saw there. So we talked to her about everything, except for like 2 things. There are 2 things we don't talk to her about. Okay, we talked to her about the alibi stuff. That's great. And then we also talk about the key. We have to see this scene with Jason because Jason gets introduced. And yeah, like, we're halfway through the game and they're still introducing characters. Like, urgh. Like, if all the characters had been there from the beginning, I feel like that would have been better. And then we have this conversation, which is really long. This is the other one that's hard to navigate with Alicia, because we have to talk to her about everything, because we don't get to talk to her on day number 1 of the game, and we don't get to talk to her on day number 3 of the game. So they shove all of her conversations here on this one conversation on the 3rd day of the game. I mean, on the 2nd day of the game. And you saw the conversation list. There are like 7 things to talk to her about, and we've already talked to her about 3 things already. And, oh, like, if you're going to split up the game into like 3 days, it's like, why don't you split up her conversations among the 3 days? I don't get it. I don't get it. It's another weird programming decision I don't quite get. You can't read that. You can't read that. Such tiny lettering, especially on the lowest resolution possible. So we need to see the doors locked. We need to call Nancy's dad. Nancy's dad will call the judge, and he did that, so now the judge gets it. I don't think we need to talk to the judge about Nancy's dad. Yeah, but that triggers our ability to see that particular post-it note. We're going to enter the code here, and then we do the investigation here, which, again, I think could be improved. I think this is counted as one of the official puzzles of the game. I did that. I checked out the 2 things by the window, and yeah, you can't read that in tiny mode here. This one is always one which gets me every time I play the game, because it's just not intuitive that you need to open the drawer and then use the evidence list on the drawer. There are 3 drawers you want to open. And then the other thing you have to do is check that and talk to the judge about it, and that takes care of this area here. So the reason I do the judge's area... Oh, we also need to get alibis from the judge, too. The reason we do the judge's area first is because it allows us to get the key for the Hathorn house, and it just makes sense to get to the key... Get the key and finish the day with the Hathorn House investigation, because it's the farthest away. And we have to talk to Jason about everything. You know, maybe it's for the best that we don't get to meet Jason till the second half of the game, because Jason's just kind of terrible. Sorry, Jason. And now I have to talk to Tegan for a long conversation. She's going to mention the fact that ergot poisoning is a thing that caused mass hallucinations in Salem at the time of the witch trials. Is it just me, or is the background blurry next to Tegan? Just to the left of her. Yeah, that, I don't know. I can't tell if that's just low resolution or if it's just the game is blurry there. She just looks weird standing in that position with her arms being held out at her sides. And you'll notice Alicia stands at the exact same angle. And then so does Olivia, and so does, I think, one of the Hardy Boys. Just so many characters have the exact same animations in this game. Not a fan of that either. Okay, and now we get to call, I mean, you could call Damien. Doesn't matter if you call him now or if you call him later. Not a huge amount of difference.
I listened, honestly.
Long conversation, confirming his alibi, kind of. We're confirming Tegan's alibi. And we don't get to talk to him again. We don't get to follow up on it. It feels sort of like a drop plot point. It feels kind of unnecessary that that's the majority of this. The second day of the game is talking to everyone about their alibis. We did get that minor puzzle of examining, exploring the evidence room. And that is mainly a setup for the evidence room puzzle on the next day. And we do get a little bit of investigation here, but it is kind of disappointing. Now we need to skip that scene. So the investigation should be just two things, right? We grab the big obvious jacket there, and that's it. No, the other thing, I did this wrong though. You're not supposed to zoom in on that desk drawer. You're supposed to zoom in on the flower. Click on the flower there, and then you can zoom in on the drawer. Okay, you get this letter which talks about the will, which honestly should bring an end to all the legal drama, because now we've got proof that there's a will that exists and there's a location for the will. But nope, we can't pursue that angle. We can't pursue it. Now we're going to go to Tegan's area. It's nighttime now. It's nighttime now. Tegan's going to be crying over here.
So, when I started working, Samuel,
and she talks about how she's basically, she really cares more about her own reputation more than like anything else. Where's May? I wonder. Where's Deirdre? I don't know. Who cares? This game doesn't care. Now we switch to the Hardy Boys, and you know what would have been cool? If the game just switched to the Hardy Boys without like a minute of conversation in between. That would have been cool. Like, make it like a Creature of Kapu Cave or one of the other games. Actually, in Creature of Kapu Cave, they have longish conversations switching from Nancy to the Hardy Boys. That's probably not a good example. Alright, and then, like, this puzzle, not fun, ever. Oh, I wish there was a way to skip it. Definitely. Maybe somebody will find a way to skip this puzzle someday, and then we will all be the better for it. But hey, at least we get to solve puzzles for once. It's been a while since we solved the puzzle. I mean, I guess we did solve the puzzle of finding that piece of paper inside the house. You can call that a puzzle, sure, why not? Alrighty. Navigation issues there. Oh well. And this is the third round of the puzzle. So yeah, is this going to be a super fast death percent speed run? No, it takes like a half hour. This is pretty fast. You could get a better time just by being better at clicking. Really, just click better. Yeah, have much better navigation. I messed up on navigation quite a bit. And solve this puzzle more quickly, because this is a random puzzle. How is that not good? How is that not a good solution? Oh my gosh, this game. Anyway, yeah, have better navigation. Here, it's like I got lost, trying to figure out where to go. Yeah. And then I finally figured out where I was going, and then I continued. It's kind of weird that Joe is Mr. Ghost Hunting Equipment in this game. Was he like that in any of the other games, or did they just make that up for this game, where Joe really, really, really believes in ghosts and everything? Like, let's see. Last train to Blue Moon Canyon.
Looky here. There's no...
I think he did, like, think it was possible that Camille's ghost was there, but he wasn't all, like, big on ghost hunting equipment, because that was really John Gray, the actual ghost hunter with ghost hunting equipment. And he wasn't like the ghost hunter friend that we called in Ghost of Thornton Hall. So, just find a little weird Joe as Mr. Ghost Hunter in this game. Here's something cool. Like, we skip the minor navigation of going from the cemetery to Olivia's place. How did we get inside Olivia's place when it was locked at night? Did she not lock it this night? I don't know. I don't know. Is that why they skipped it? Is that why they skipped the scene of going inside Olivia's? Yeah. And they skipped the minor navigation of going from Olivia's to the graveyard. So if the game had done a bit more of that, like purposeful skipping of going from one place to another, would have been great. I would have liked that. Just save some navigation time. Just a little, just a little. So this puzzle is not very fun, and I wish there was like a way to really skip it. Like if we could type on our keyboard, like whoa, that would have been a great solution. Because moving your mouse, I mean, like okay, get the cipher in place and then just type out the solution. That would have been good. It's also too long. It's way too long because we've got like these 5 things to do. Way too long. Why? Why did you do this to us, game? If we only had 3 things, that probably would have been best. Like restock wands, grocery shopping, and then number 5. If this had been explained too, that would have been great. Like we do meet Olivia. She's going to show up in the cutscene. But when the Hardys talk to her, they don't really talk to her. They don't get an explanation for, okay, why are you hiding stuff in this grave site? Hiding stuff in code on this grave site. Like, does she have a reason for doing that? Instead, they just confront her about the fact that she seems to be hiding stuff in the woods to make her ghost tours slightly scarier. I mean, I guess that's important because Nancy's thinking there is an actual ghost here, so we need to figure out who's behind the ghost haunting. But then, it's all irrelevant. This is all like a dead end. Because the truth is that somebody poisoned Lauren's water with ergot, and that's why everybody has everybody's been having hallucinations here. Okay, skip that cutscene where the ghost shows up and attacks the Hardys. We have this minor scene of the 3 of them showing up here. This conversation needs a rewrite. Yeah. Look at Olivia. Did you see Olivia just throw her arm through the middle of Joe's arm? Just passes right through Joe's body multiple times. Oh my gosh. I don't understand why there are conversations like that in the game. Getting back to the complaint that I was making. Where you only select one option. That was the case with the original trip with Deirdre in the car. Kind of the case here. Not so much, but it's like you get to pick from an option. Pick an option. What's Nancy going to say? Pick from the list. There's only one item on the list. And then you do that 3 times in a row. That was the case with that last conversation with Olivia. Why did they even bother giving you the option? Because there is no option. You pick option 1 of 1 3 times in a row. if it had been a conversation where it's like, okay, all 3 options are on screen at once, and you can pick the order of those 3 options, that would have made sense. That would have been okay.
What?
It would have been like kind of cheating because, you know, it makes you think that you have a choice of what option to pick when really you have to go through all 3 of them anyway. This is another case where you only have one option to pick twice. There are 2 times where you pick option number 1 of 1. And I do love that animation of Deirdre just moving her arms like, ah, angry, angry Deirdre, angry Deirdre. And then Dad's gonna call. This is random. I really feel like that should have been an optional phone call instead of a mandatory phone call. Why is it here at this particular part of the game? I don't know. I accidentally clicked on the item. You're not supposed to click on the item there. The important item is the one underneath it. So let me get to this. This is an actual puzzle, everyone. I actually solved this puzzle. It's like a glitch with this game, where like if you solve the CCTV puzzle, the game knows you've solved the CCTV puzzle. So I put in my USB here, put in the USB, I start the puzzle, and then I back away, and the game says, hey, you solved the puzzle already. Because I did. I solved the puzzle before I started the game. It doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't matter that I solved the puzzle on a different save file. The game says, hey, you already solved it. Great, good, you're done. So that's a skip. That is the skip there. Probably one of the biggest skips of the game is you don't have to solve the CCTV puzzle if you've solved it on another save file. Oh, I wish we could use that skip with some of the other puzzles. So here we talk to her about the one thing, and that's it. And this is a bit of a time saver here on the on the 3rd day of the game. You don't have to talk to everyone about everything, so we don't really need to talk to Lauren about what she had to eat or drink. We only need to talk to Olivia about what she drank. I don't think we need to talk to her about what she eats. That was just something I figured out when replaying the game over and over. It's like you don't... I think your task list says you need to ask everybody what they ate and drank, but no, you only have to ask what they drank, and for whatever reason, Lauren is not one of those people that we need to ask. Alrighty. It does seem weird that you have to ask the Hardys, because that was part of the conversation at the breakfast table, as Joe specifically mentions what he had for lunch. Like, so we technically already know what he had to eat and drink yesterday. But we have to ask him anyway, because, you know, midnight in Salem. It's never going to skip a conversation if it has the chance. That is an awkward conversation where Deirdre is standing with her back to Lauren, but they are still talking to each other. You didn't really get a sense of that because I skipped through the conversation as quickly as possible. And here we get more conversations. The characters just talk. That was an example of you have 2 conversation options. You want to pick the second one because it's slightly faster. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. The same thing happens either way. Here we want to find May's phone, and then we want to leave. Deirdre's in the middle of having a hissy fit, so we have to get a ride from Jason into town. Couldn't we take, like, the Hardy Boys car? Well, no, because the Hardy Boys need to show up and help you out later. Okay. I like how that entire conversation happened in the middle of the loading screen. Because the loading screen takes too long. Did nobody notice that when they were playtesting the game? It's like, wait a minute, the conversation, maybe you should pause the conversation until the loading screen is finished. Alrighty, we're getting close to the end of the speedrun here, I think. Yeah, we're getting close. A couple of minutes left. Hooray! So, we talked to Jason about everything, get that big revelation. Which feels like it could have been something which happened earlier in the game. I don't know. Just the big revelations here at the end. I get why they wanted to have big revelations at the end. I feel like they were thrown in mainly because they wanted to have big revelations and not that it particularly makes sense for Tegan to confess that she's the arsonist at that point in time. or it makes particular sense for Jason to confess he stole the evidence at that point in time. In fact, it doesn't make sense because it's like, well, now that we know Jason was the one who stole the evidence at the very start of the game and he was working for Alicia, it would make sense if we could confront Alicia. She's the culprit. We just figured it out, right? But no, we have to do all this instead, and whatever. Anyway, one of the things he confessed to, besides the fact that he was working with Alicia the culprit, is that these hidden tunnels exist.
Deep breath.
I really wish we had a big confrontation scene with May about the fact that she hid these tunnels from us, because this is where she was on the night of the murder. She was just hanging on night of the murder. On the night of the arson, she was hanging out here with Jason. She doesn't want anybody to know about it. And it's like, I feel like that is a terrible reason for her to keep everything a secret, you know, to make everybody think that she's an arsonist, to almost get arrested because she was hanging out in some tunnels with some guy. I don't think that was the best. I also don't like this, where we're in the middle of the puzzle, and then the Hardy Boys just stop to have a conversation, because it always makes me lose my place in the directions of how to get through this area. And then we have this puzzle. Simple enough. This is an interesting looking puzzle. This feels like it was a puzzle made to just to show off the new graphics system that they used here. And here we go, the first death scene of the game. What is the first death scene in Midnight in Salem? It's here, and it's practically at the end of the game. The next one is when the tunnels flood. So that's basically the puzzle scene after this. And then the puzzle scene after that is getting out of the room with an AW sign. And if you click the wrong AW sign, it's a game over. So the 3 death scenes of this game are pretty much at the very end of the game. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you had more fun watching it than I had making it. I could improve this speedrun and get a better time, but I did not have fun making the speedrun in the first place, so I will not be replaying the game to do a better speedrun.